We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America network. And we are once again joined by Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza. Now, earlier in the show, we were talking about the massive cash ruling against Donald Trump in New York that got slashed by about 60%. But there was another case that took place this week in New York regarding Donald Trump, and that's the one brought by Alvin Bragg, District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Scott, give us the details. What's happened this last week?
Well, this is the hush money trial, as every major media outlet seems to be calling it, whereby Donald Trump, in wishing to spare his wife and family the truth of the disclosure of his dalliance with Stormy Daniels, who had engaged a Los Angeles attorney famous for a legal version of blackmail. And so what that means is she says, I think I'm going to write my memoirs. And of course, what's going to be featured prominently in those is the night we spent together. Or you could just pay me X amount of dollars and I'll forget about the memoir. And that's what happened. And because of the payment was made under a corporate form, Mr. Bragg has been able to turn that, so far anyway, into a criminal charge against Donald Trump for, it's sort of a made-up criminal charge that is.
But by made-up criminal charge, what you mean is it's a novel application of an existing law. Is that about right? It's one of these
special applications of the law designed to get Donald Trump, quite frankly, and that's the way to focus on it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's impossible that it'll result in a criminal conviction. Any criminal charge should be taken seriously, but that is the nuts and bolts of it.
There's a few questions that
I just wanted to add this. You asked me what happened this week, and what happened this week was that the start date of the trial has been delayed now until April because the United States Department of Justice came forth with 100,000 pages or documents concerning Mr. Michael Cohen.
This is specifically what I want to address, Scott. They brought forward 100,000 individual documents that were to be entered into evidence, presumably. Otherwise, they wouldn't bring them, right?
It's important to distinguish the two groups here. The Manhattan DA's office, Mr. Bragg's office, is the one bringing the prosecution, but it was the United States Department of Justice, Joe Biden's Department of Justice, who released the documents concerning Mr. Cohen.
Okay, and so the Trump camp, they asked for a delay to go through the 100,000 documents to see what would be relevant to their particular defense or modes of defense that they were after.
Mr. Cohen is the legal way to phrase it, yes.
Sure. And so the judge only granted till the 15th of April, which seems like quite a short time scale considering there's 100,000 documents. But I believe the argument made by the Department of Justice was that only a small portion of these are relevant. Now, Scott, this is the part that gets my liberty bone tingling here.
Right.
The people who are engaged against Donald Trump are now determining, well, this is relevant to you and this one isn't. And surely that should be up to the defense to determine which of these documents is relevant to their defense. Because, for example, if somebody were, let's say I had a nemesis, and that nemesis is sworn to destroy me. And then he said, look,
as all nemesis
that's what they do, right? That's what they do. I do have a
certainly.
nemesis, but I shan't name him on this particular broadcast. But then my nemesis told me that, here's all these things. You only need these ones. These are the ones that will help you defeat me. Don't look at the other ones. Don't use the other ones in court. Just use the ones that I tell you to use. It makes no sense to me. I'm sure there's a good legal reason behind it, Scott. What is that?
So a couple things. Firstly, it's not the Department of Justice. It's not Biden's Department of Justice that's saying there are only certain ones are relevant.
Sure.
That would be Bragg's office.
Who is the nemesis in this particular category. Yeah.
But the United States Department of Justice is not making any arguments. They were just the keepers of these documents. They were subpoenaed and they turned them over. And the Department of Justice, for any defendant, forgetting about Donald Trump for a moment, just for John Q. accused criminal, if the Department of Justice has information about that case, but the defendant is being prosecuted under state court. They don't have a duty to turn it over. Part of our system of justice does not include that. It's somewhat outrageous to some of us who think that, if you believe the notion that the government, it's really about justice and not winning. Okay. But sadly, that's often not the case. And we have had, Mark, decades upon decades, if not longer, of a push in America to restrict and limit the rights of defendants and increase the rights of the state. Politicians rarely get elected, even in the face of what we've seen with Donald Trump. Maybe that'll change. I hope it'll change. But on celebrating the rights of defendants against the state, most often it's tougher on crime kind of campaigns we see from all sides of the aisle. So that's the backdrop under which he's operating.
So what I really want to know is if this does go against Donald Trump for one or many of the charges, what are the appeal routes here? Because there's no way he doesn't appeal this decision.
Yes, that's right. And it'll be another battle. Does he have to present himself into custody or not? It'll be, I think it's a bit rich, first of all, just to even think that it's going to get to an actual verdict. I suggest it probably won't. I think there'll be interlocutory appeals that control it, but it's just a typical through state court and then up through the federal courts and up to maybe and possibly including the Supreme Court.
That Donald Trump should get a box at the Supreme Court the way things are going at the moment, just with his name on it, and he can just sit there and see it all out. Now, we're going to be back with Scott Cosenza after this short break. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are libertynation.com.